Welcome back to the D1Softball podcast. With my co-host Amanda Lorenz, I'm Jenna Becerra, and today's episode is brought to us by our friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from the youth levels all the way to the pros. A lot going on, as usual. I say that every week, Amanda, at this point.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yes. And then today's lineup, we will go through top 25 rankings and some questions. And then we'll interview Virginia head coach Joanna Hardin, which is exciting. And we'll end things with the plays of the week and the win and whiff of the week. All right. I guess let's go ahead and jump right into top 25 rankings, the fun stuff.
Let's do it.
So, as usual, some movement. I think if we pull it up and take a look, some of the key things to call out is that Texas and OU stay number 1 and number 2 after sweeping Kansas and Houston, respectively. Tennessee goes up to number 3 after taking the series from LSU. Oklahoma State also number 4, coming off of an undefeated week. And then the biggest mover, UCLA jumping 7 spots to get into the top 5 after a huge sweep of Stanford, which we'll get into. And then Clemson dropped out of the top 25 after some recent struggles. And Texas State returns to the poll after going 4-0. They're now 37-12 on the year. So if we zoom out, Big 12 has 3 of the top 4. The SEC leads with 10 total teams, and there are 7 different conferences represented with at least 1 team in the poll. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's the part that stands out to me is you saying 7 different conferences have a stake in the game, right? Like, so cool for our sport. It keeps growing and growing. We're seeing more parity and more shifting, and just shows how good we're becoming across the board instead of just the Power 5.
Exactly. It's that quote unquote gap has never been smaller or never mattered less. I don't even know if it's a gap anymore. Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Well, we have lots of questions as usual about all of this, and we'll do our best to answer them. I feel like we still have some of the same questions anyway. So the first one is, how is Texas number 1, but doesn't even lead the Big 12? It's a good question.
Totally a good question. And also, like, looking how strong Oklahoma State and Oklahoma are, like, that's also something to look at. I think that, unfortunately, like, you just have to look at the big picture, and those 2 wins over Oklahoma are just so huge, like when comparing head to head. But then you go head to head of like, okay, well, what about Oklahoma State? And Oklahoma State has just had a little bit some more losses than the other 2. So just when you're looking at the whole body of work and not just Big 12, I think that, and also you'll see that shake out by the end of the year and through the Big 12 tournament.
Yes, body of work. You said it. I think that's the key part, because right now OU is 1 game ahead of Texas in the Big 12, but it's not like they're multiple games. Like in the current standings, you're right. Head to head, Texas took the series, but then Oklahoma State took the series from Texas. So there's that kind of like dance around going on. But then to put numbers behind it too, in both RPI and DSR, Texas is number 1 and OU is number 2 overall. So the strength of schedule also better, like higher up than OU is for Texas. So the strength of schedule for the RPI is number 3. It's 32 for OU. And DSR, the strength of schedule for Texas is 13. And for OU, it's 43. So just putting that into perspective, to your point, Amanda, to kind of shed light onto what that body of work actually looks like. And OU still has Oklahoma State for their last Big 12 season. I feel like a lot hinges on that because of this like sort of top 3, all the movement that we have going on with those teams.
Oh yeah. And how exciting. I can't wait to watch. And the last one of the Big 12 too, with Oklahoma State. It's going to be so exciting to watch, and just, it's going to mean more.
It always does, doesn't it? Going into next season. Oklahoma does still have the least amount of losses. So, we'll see how that pans out, because if they win the regular season and then that they also, if Texas doesn't win the Big 12 tournament, I feel like OU can still get the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Agreed.
So, a lot going on. But a lot going on also on the West Coast. How much will UCLA's sweep affect their tournament seeding?
Oh, I think it's huge, right? I think we even talked about this last week, like how badly UCLA needed some games, right? Like so many rainouts and then getting this huge opportunity at Stanford, which was at that time a top 3 team. And like so talented. Stanford has had an incredible year. And UCLA has been a little shaky, right? Especially in the beginning of the year. As of late, they've played much better, much to what we know UCLA as being more of a winning powerhouse. And Taylor Tinsley has just absolutely stepped up to be that ace for them, right? Like so cool to see her step into that role, which I'm sure that's what she was recruited to do, what she knew that she could do. But we're used to seeing a power pitcher with something to back up, right? Like the one that they always call on. They had like the Megan Langenfelds to the Ali Cartas to the Rachel Garcia, Megan Faremo. Like they've had these big power pitchers, and now Taylor Tinsley is that, right? And she's totally stepped into it. And it's been fun to watch and see her teammates rally around her. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but just I think it's really cool the fact that there was some talk about them not even being in the top 25 after the first couple weekends of just like, whoa, what's going on? Like they have a lot to figure out and redefine as a team, and they have. And obviously, there was a little bit of a controversial call there at the end of game 1. Not to take anything away, I think regardless, if that game doesn't end up they're going their way, like they made a statement coming into Stanford and playing the way that they did. I was very, very impressed with the way that their pitchers pitched, the way that their offense attacked, some really good Stanford pitching, and they just competed the whole weekend. So I think that was just the best case scenario for UCLA. Like they really needed that. They needed to capitalize on that opportunity, and they did.
Yep, and they had played 10 less games than Stanford on the year
Yeah.
because of the rainouts and all of these things that we've talked about. So to me, I'm like, they just needed games, period. And to then do
Yeah.
this well, in the games that they got was impressive. So they jump up to number 9 in DSR with the top 10 strength of schedule. Stanford's still right there at number 11 across both for overall and for strength of schedule. But we've talked about how tough their preseason schedule was. And it's like, not always. Every year, every team's different, but there are some of these like foundational cultural tenets at these programs. And there's a reason why UCLA is who they are, right? Is because they have that like foundation of the mental game more than anything. And when we had Taylor Tinsley on this show earlier this season, and she said, like, I think I asked her, like, what are 3 words to describe UCLA softball? She said magic, vibes, and gritty. All of that came to play for her individually and for just the team as a whole, I think.
Yeah, totally. And then seeing like different players step up, like Jordan Woolery, like we obviously know how talented she is, but I feel like I haven't heard her name much this season of just big performances. And like she totally stepped up with not like a terrible pitch off Kennedy, just like being on time and letting that, like, sometimes when you face these power pitchers, it's like you need to try less, right? Like
Yes.
letting her provide all of the power. And it was just such a beautiful, simple swing that it felt like she just timed up, and Nyjah provided all the power that Jordan needed. And obviously, I mean, Jordan doesn't need help. Like she's very, very strong in her own right, but it was just really pretty and simple. And I really loved the swing.
And they beat her not once, they beat her twice.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that has to say something, right? Like, and
yeah.
it was very close games. Like it's such a heartbreaking weekend for Stanford. Like they were right there in so many of the games. I know like game 3 got away from them a little bit, but still up until late, it felt very, very close. Right. So it definitely felt like they were ready to go. Unfortunate for Stanford to feel like, it's just so hard when it's so competitive. Like the game of inches, man,
Yeah.
the game of inches.
Exactly. And for the seeding part specifically, it helped them tremendously. Like to leapfrog Stanford, because it was like number 1 versus number 2 in the pack. Now UCLA's first in the standings. They went from just a couple weeks ago, people were like, are they going to host regionals? to now it's could they potentially host super regionals, obviously assuming they get through regionals, right? But could they be that top 8 seed? It's now on the table. So that's how big the weekend was.
Absolutely.
Duke loses their first series of the season and drops to 7. Why? Also a good question.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about this. I feel like every week it really comes down to like strength of schedule and body of work. And yeah, it's their losing their first series of the season, which it happens unfortunately, but like it is what it is. Virginia also like has snuck some good games. Like they snuck the Clemson series as well. They won the Clemson series 2-1, and so it just comes down to, hey, look, their strength of schedule is a little bit questionable just with winning against top teams. They haven't really had the opportunity to do so anyway. I think that we mentioned maybe last week that the Oklahoma game was their only game within the top 10, and they ended up losing that game. So when you look at that, you have to look at their strength of schedule. And so on paper, they should have swept Virginia, right? So even losing one game to Virginia, we would have been talking about and probably would have lowered them in the standings regardless. But losing the series and game one, they snuck out. Like they won 1-0 in 12 innings. So it was like and I mean, that's a grind and that's a win you earn, absolutely. But I'm saying like it could have very easily, similar to the UCLA Stanford series, been a swept. Like they could have gotten swept. So it's hard, right? Like they drop because on paper they should have swept.
Right. Yes. And they are in the top 5 in both DSR and RPI. But then if you look at strength of schedule, like they're number 42, Duke is in strength of schedule overall for Diamond Sports rankings. So again, agreed. It goes back to that, to what you're saying. I think it was also the losses close together. So they came back with the Clemson series, but they did lose to Campbell earlier that week. And then they followed up with losing their first series in the ACC. So it kind of like all got clumped together in a way. And I think that's something that pollsters will react to.
Totally.
But, they're still in the top 10. Like this is by no means are they like out of the race or anything.
Yeah, they're winning the ACC away, winning the ACC and winning the ACC tournament away from being in the top 5.
Yeah, like they're right there.
Exactly.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love how much people care too. And actually, we're going to get some insight on that series, among other things, as we head into the interview with head coach Joanna Hardin. We are thrilled to welcome head coach at Virginia Softball, Jo Hardin. Thank you, Coach Hardin. We're excited to chat with you, and we have lots to discuss.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time and just what you do for the game. So glad to be here.
Right back at you. And I think it's hard not to maybe start with, we have lots of questions, but starting with the Duke series that just happened. It's hard to beat a good team, especially in the top 5. It's hard to beat a team twice, especially in the same day.
Yep.
So what do you think made the difference for your team?
We've been thinking about this and talking about this as a staff. I think the first thing I'll say is when your back's against the wall and you trust your team, they can do magical things. So what people don't know is our hitting coach was actually not with us that weekend. I was coaching third. He was sick. So I was coaching third, and Bella and Jamie and I did all the prep for the week, and it was kind of crazy. And so you're going into number 5, like down a man, end of the season. So, and the team knew that. They just knew they needed to step up and do some things. They picked up equipment. They helped us set up practice a couple of days. Like they just did some awesome things. And like, that's just the character of the team. So I think we all knew we had done everything that we could to prepare. Like that was number one. And at some point you just have to trust yourself. So I think going into this series, Friday night was tough. It was 12 innings, 1-0, ends up being an error in the 12th inning. And both pitchers battled their butts off all sides. It was just a great game. And we, as a staff, as the 3 of us are walking back to the huddle, we're like, hey, we just have to stay we just played our butts off, and positive, put our arm around each other. We can't silo. We can't get frustrated because it doesn't give us a chance tomorrow. And we knew at that point Eden was probably not going to be available. Just he threw 170 pitches. And so you're like, okay, your ace is probably down for a little bit. But the other ones are going to have to step up, and they can. They're totally capable. They've done it. They've had these moments. And so I think we just stuck with, you guys played hard. That's what we've asked you to do. Like, come together and let's just fight. Like, that's all we really have. And it sounds really cliche and like, oh, like heartsy, cutesy, but it was all we had. Like, their tanks were completely emptied. We had to play 3 games in 24-hour period, which is insane with so much at stake. NCAA tournament seeding, NCAA tournament berth, ACC championship on the line for like, there's so much at stake. And it was like, we're going to go play each other in 24 hours. And so honestly, I think Saturday we were just tough. We were just tough as nails. Jade comes up with those 6 huge RBIs, 4 in the first game and 2 in the second. And she did not have a great day to play on Friday. She actually, her second at bat in game 2 of the series, I think she popped up with runners in scoring position. And so for her, it was just poised. She just stuck with it. She never got too overly frustrated. She's so mature and she just gave herself a chance in that moment to come through. And so we put a lot of emphasis on the mental toughness side. We went through the book mindset. The Fearless Mind. And that's something we went through the whole semester. We talked about routines. We talked about poise. We talked about how to pressure. What is pressure? We talked about confidence, arrogance, like all these things and developing these, thought patterns. And I put more time into that. And so I think they just like owned the moment in it and like kind of came together on how do we just stick with it. Pitching and defense wins championships. Like that's what you saw like that weekend. And then I think in a doubleheader, momentum plays. Like I really do, which is why all of us hate doubleheaders because we want to be able to take a break and come back and like reset. And so I think we just carried some momentum into game 3. And again, Michaela Hogue threw an excellent game, and Maddie came in and closed it out. And I mean, what a fitting way to break the saves record at UVA for Maddie. And I just felt like there were some really special moments, and we were just tough as nails and super relentless in that. And that was the loosest we played. Game 3 of that series was the loosest we played. Like, just have fun. And it was awesome.
Oh, that was so cool to hear, you speak about that, because obviously as a viewer, we love watching it, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So all that's flashing in my head as you're speaking is like culture and what you've built, obviously, because how do you even like instill that amount of confidence and belief in your kids? And it's preparation, like you said, like you prepared and you felt like you were the most prepared you could be going in, especially a man down without your hitting coach. Like if you have fragile hitters, what that can do to the hitters, it like totally takes away their safe space and their blanket, like their shield. So I just want to have you talk a little bit about the culture that you've built at Virginia and how you feel like that totally prepared you for that huge weekend, right? And like you've had huge weekends before, but I feel like it shined, right, when it needed to the most.
100%. I think one major principle for me is a lot. I'm just like, I don't love the whole like bringing the motivational speaker for this one time and that's going to change your culture. It's like those things are really impactful and important, but what you do a little bit every single day is what's going to build with unbroken growth, right? And so I think that's huge for me, is just like, what are we doing every day that's going to build the scaffolding and just keep building on top of that? So that's just kind of an overall organizational principle. And, Coach Mendenhall, he's one of my mentors, and he's always told me like organizations are perfectly designed to get the results that they do. And so when we were struggling, I'm like, okay, what are the results that we're getting, and what is the design structure here? We are not designed to get these outcomes. And so how do we adapt our design and create a true competitive advantage? So that's kind of like the overall big picture. And so with that, we have our mission statement, our core values. Our core values are purpose, love, diligence, and perspective. We talk about that all the time. They have to memorize that. And I think purpose is with intent. Like I run practice, I design practice, and it takes me hours because I'm just like, okay, like how do you take what we did here, the defense, the hitting, what pitchers need to throw, what do we need to see on the weekend, how is the setup? Like there's just so much design and intent behind what we do at practice, behind our leadership structures, behind everything is just like purposeful. And so I think that's a big thing. And so with our team, like they know that if we have a practice that looks crazy, there is a design, there's a purpose for that. And I think mental toughness and, mental fortitude, that was something based on last year, how we finished last year's season. I was like, man, we just crumbled. We just didn't handle the pressure of we need this game. This is an important series. We're so close. We're on the bubble. How do we do that? And I'm like, what do I need to implement and design so that we can handle that? We can come through in that. We can be resilient in that. And so that was really clear to me after last season. I thought there were some coaching management decisions that we made or didn't make that probably didn't set us up well. And then the pressure just got to us. And so like, again, like purposeful design, like love is the truth, hard things, and the get your arm around each other, but also like tell you the truth. For this year particularly, we watched The Greatest Showman. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie. It's amazing. And we kind of like the anthem of This Is Me. Like that was our anthem going into this season of like, be yourself, be totally unapologetically yourself. This is a group of misfit, crazy, different personalities, big personalities, small personalities, loud and obnoxious, quiet and meek. And like, we want you to be yourself and like, just own who you are. We had them write I am statements and have to stand up in front of the team throughout the whole spring and present their I am statements to the team. Talk about like nerves. I started first and I was like shaking. It's just like nervous to talk about yourself and what you're great at and what your strengths are. And I just feel like as women, we're more likely to like sit on the back burner and like point to everybody else and what they do, which is awesome and humble. And I love that. But like, also you can own like what you're good at too, you know, like own the fact that like strategic design is a strength of mine. Like I love that. I think like I'm pretty tenacious. I'm pretty relentless. And so like I can own that. I also know I have blind spots too. And that's why I have a great staff around me. And so we made them get in front of their team and present 3 I am statements, strengths, positive attributes they have. And now on the backside of it, we're doing affirmations and they 3 at a time get up in front of practice and we just get to talk about what we appreciate about them. So just like a way to build holistic confidence in who you are, and it frees you up to go play because your team's not judging you. You're not judging yourself. And we literally don't care what the outside world has to say. Like we don't care. You know, good, bad, or ugly. I took social media off my phone because I don't care. Like I'm like, no one's in the ringer with us. You're not in the arena. So I don't care. And I just think that has been integral in our love, you know, purpose, love, like diligence, working really hard, and then just perspective, right? Like you have to see somebody else's point of view and appreciate that point of view, whether you agree or not. I tell them every year at the beginning, there's 24 people from different religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, family backgrounds, political backgrounds, parts of the country. And we're throwing you in a locker room and saying, hey, work together and do something really special. That takes a lot of work. And we need conflict. We need your guys to rub against each other, but we also need you to unite. And so it's a tricky balance of say, be yourself, and then also align with our mission and our values. And so I just think they've done a great job of leading each other and keeping the goal of the NCAA tournament in mind over all else. Like that's it. We can get through this. We're going to work through this thing over here, this disagreement, because we want this more. And it's just a special group, and they've done that really, really well.
This is so cool because I feel like we're just getting a peek into, you know, this being your 8th season, right, at Virginia. You've built this year to year to year to year. And I feel like every year you've been there, there's been some sort of milestone of improvement throughout it. Like last year, it was like the first 30-win season in over 10 years, right? And then the year before that, it was like you tied the program record for ACC wins. And now this year, an opportunity, like you said, to go to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2010.
Yeah.
So there's, on the one hand, like staying focused on that goal, to your point. On the other, in your shoes as a coach, how much do you think about like RPI and seedings and all of that? How much does that affect your thought process at this point?
Yeah. I think, you know, our design and our thought process from day one has always been NCAA tournament postseason. And whether we have the pieces, the talent, the pitching, the offense, whatever, like it's down to, we have our banquet on Selection Sunday. I have had it on Selection Sunday every year, and we watch it. And even when we're not close, right? Or we maybe, if we know we're not close, we don't watch it together, but like that's the purpose, because we're going to have our banquet and we're going to watch the selection show with the intent of like, we're going to be in the NCAA tournament. It's just a matter of when. And so, so that's always been the design. It's just, we haven't got there yet. And we're finally in that position to be there. So I think, you know, for me, we pay attention because there's a strategic side to that. Some of our girls pay attention to the RPI and rankings. Some of them don't. I think we got ranked by a poll a couple weeks ago, and like half the team didn't know because they were like, I don't care, like, because it doesn't matter. And I think I had a reporter ask me about that, like, oh, this is the first, and I think the school put something out like every team in spring is ranked or something like that, because we'd never been ranked really before. It's been since like 95 or 94 or something like that. Like, what does that feel? And I'm like, it's great to be ranked on April 8th, but if we're sitting at home on May 13th, it doesn't matter, right? Like, and so like you have to keep that in perspective. I would say celebration is not one of my strengths. I am a like, what's next? Next man up. Okay, after the season is recruiting, and after recruiting is season, and after this is that. And then I got to fit my vacation in there, and then I'm going to go, like, I don't vacation well, and that's not like patting myself on the back. I think that's actually a huge downfall of mine, because we have had some milestones. We've done some great things. I can think of 3 years ago, Abby Weaver, we walked off Notre Dame here. That was our first top 25 series win, and she walked it off in game 1, and then we beat them in game 2 in a doubleheader, and that was the first top 25 series we won. That was 3 years ago. And then last year we go to Florida State, win a game at Florida State for the first time, 30-win season. 2 years ago, 28 wins. That was the first winning season in 13 years. And so they're definitely beating Clemson series. That was a huge one. My dad kept the tickets, so I have the ticket stubs, and Duke on the road, top 5 series win. And so I think it's important to like celebrate those milestones, especially with your players. And I've had a couple of players that have graduated in the last 2 years that have texted like, great job. And like, they're a part of it. Like the staff that's been here the last 4 or 5 years, the players that have been here the last 4 or 5 years, like we don't get to this point without all of them and all those people, like administrators that were here that are no longer here. And Carla, who's been here most of the time. Like there's just a lot of people that are part of that. And so like rankings and RPI, KPI, that matters strategically. And it matters in how we set up, maybe how we play midweeks or how we do some things. There's a part of that, but it doesn't really like affect one way or the other. Because I remember looking at it when we were like 248. Like, okay, like that's brutal. So I think when you've been through the dog days, I don't think you get too high or too low, because you've been as low as you can be. But I think one area, and my husband's great at this, is just like being able to step back and like have a glass of wine and like appreciate the win for what it was. And then you go back to work tomorrow, or, and so that has been a challenge for me. And something I've tried to be very intentional about. We celebrate every win, because winning is hard. And so we have a board, and every time we win, somebody gets the game sticker, and we jump around, and we like, how in basketball when they're in the locker room and they're like doing all that. I'm like, that's so cool. Like football, they get to go crazy because they have like, 12 games. But I think that's awesome. And so we're like, man, winning's hard. So we celebrate every single win, and they jump around, they act like 12-year-old kids, and it's fun. And then we enjoy it, and then we go back to work the next day. So that's been an area I've tried to develop in myself, and because you can get lost in rankings and the RPI and the KPI. You just get like, okay, and too caught up in that. And at the end of the day, we got to win games. We got to compete hard and win games. And we put ourselves in a good position. And if we take care of business, we'll be there, So it's kind of a balance, I think, for me. But my husband's been great at keeping me in check and keeping me in line, and like, okay, turn the computer off. You're good. You watched enough. Go to bed. So got to have a good team at home to do this job.
I love it. That was a perfect segue into my next question, because I was going to ask about your husband, and you guys have a daughter, and just how that is like raising a daughter, but also around so many like really strong women that she gets to be around and look up to. And we had Coach Ford on the podcast last week, and she has a daughter as well. So just to hear about like strong women leading these amazing programs while also raising a daughter at home, and just what it does for them and their self-esteem, and just like who to look up to. It really fires me up. So I'd love to hear you talk about that a little bit.
That's awesome. I could talk about my kid forever. So I when you're a coach, you're like, everyone has parent goggles, and you're like, yep, we do. Absolutely. She's the smartest, 3-year-old in the world. No, I'm just kidding. So I think working moms are, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like they're badasses. Like working moms are unbelievable. And I used to think like, oh, I have 24 kids and I just don't see them. And until you have your own, like you do not understand. Mom guilt is real. getting the call on Saturday night at 8 p.m., the FaceTime call in the bed because she's so upset that you're not there because you're on the road again. Mommy, why are you leaving? Like, just all these things. Like, can you stay? Can you take me to school? Can you pick me up to school? And so it is like really hard. And I do think it's different being a working mom than a working dad or a coaching dad. It's just, I don't know why good, bad. It's no judgment in it. It's just really different. And so I think it has given me such a powerful perspective on working moms and how hard it is, but also on having your daughter around these women. I mean, if my daughter ends up like any of these girls on my team, I will be a really happy woman, and I will feel very accomplished. They are so sweet to her. She knows their names, and she's not really interested in softball, so she doesn't really watch, and she doesn't care. I have this picture of her from
She will be.
You never know.
We'll
as long as she's having fun and she's healthy, like whatever. But she has this like pink hat with a like pink heart on it, and like her white little sundress, and like she got these aviator glasses, and she just couldn't give two licks about the game that's going on. We're playing top 5, and my husband's like my dad, and she's just like dee, whatever, not a care in the world. But the girls just are so good to her. They simple, like she's in and they get down on a knee and they just talk to her, and they talk to her like a normal person, and they take her in the locker room and she gets a fruit bar, or they run around on the field, or they ask her about school, and they play chase. If she's running around like a crazy person, they'll run around and play tag, and I know they've got stuff to do and places to be, but they set time aside for her. At senior day 2 weekends ago or last weekend, Leah Boggs got like a bouquet, and she took out a sunflower and she gave it to Finn, and she walked around for 20 minutes telling every single person that she could, look what Leah gave me. She gave me a sunflower. Look what Leah gave me. She gave me a sunflower. Look at what Leah Boggs gave me. She gave me a sunflower. And I took a picture. I mean, it was just one of those like full heart moments of, man, like some simple act of just kindness and paying attention. It just went a long way for her. She loves V, who is she's been in and out with some injuries. She's a 4th year, and like V just like give her time. It's just really, really cool. And I will see the impact of this on her down the line. Like she's not consciously aware of what she's saying. But being around college athletes and seeing them at this stage, I'm like, man, what a great position for her to be in when she grows up and when she's a young adult trying to navigate the world like these girls are. So it's cool. It's really hard. And I think if you've ever not questioned what you're doing as a working mom in any kind of a high stress performance job, I would guess most of us have been like, can I really do this? Is this really worth it? Like, what am I doing? But the people, your administration, your coaching staff are really, and your athletes make it totally worth it. And my husband as well. So it's our family. We're all in, and the players are all in. It's an amazing experience, and I'm super grateful.
Environment just matters. It just does, right? For like the whole experience. 100%. And that's what's, I think, cool about just as an institution, the University of Virginia too. Like, so background really quick, is I was actually recruited to Virginia back in the day, before your time, obviously. And I went on a visit, and a couple things like really stood out. Like I saw the original dorms from when it was founded by Thomas Jefferson. And then I learned about all the different levels of the secret societies, and how people don't learn that you're a 7 until you actually pass away, and then everyone finds out, and how intense it is, and just these cool different cultural and traditional experiences, and just like your perspective on that part of it all, in addition to obviously the athletics.
Yeah. So President Ryan is he came in and has forged forward with the idea of being good and great, and I think that is just being woven into the fibers of the university, right? Like we want to be good humanitarians. We want to be good people. We want to be good citizens. We want to be great and excellent at what we do and how we do it. Education, athletics. There's so many other areas in the student government. There's just so many things that go on here. And I don't know, I'm kind of in a silo over here in athletics, right? And so that's hard to know. But I mean, we're like the hospital's like got research. It's like curing cancer. Like this is what's going on here. This is an amazing place. And so under the umbrella of we want to be good and great, and there's campaigns and there's all these things, but I do think that is really impactful in the athletic department. The head coaches here, unbelievable. I remember walking into my first head coaches meeting 8 years ago, and I was like, there's Tony Bennett, and then there's Lars Tiffany, and then there's, Bronco Mendenhall, and Sarah hadn't been hired yet. So there was always coaches, and I'm like, George Gelnovich and Steve Swanson and Steve Garland. And I'm like, I am the little peon here. Like, I do not belong. It was total imposter syndrome. And and I get texts from them all the time. Great job. We're cheering for you. We're on it. Like Coach Mendenhall and I still communicate. And I just feel like it is the people and the professionalism and the unity and the pursuit of utmost excellence in all things that makes this place really, really special. Everybody has their problems. We all do, right? There's money. Every college, every university's got budget issues. Everybody's got other issues, right? Staffing issues. But I think what makes Virginia really unique is this genuine, deep pursuit of excellence by the people here, and particularly the coaches and the leadership. And so I just think that's really special, and it filters into our athletes, because if we're going to be that, we expect them to be that, and if we expect them to be that, we have to be that too. So the rotunda, amazing. The lawn, amazing. And when you're like, okay, these are the dorms from like 200 years ago, that's wild. Wild to think about. I actually had a recruit one time go like, wait, like the Thomas Jefferson like founded this? I'm like, yeah, like the one in your history book, like that's the one, So it's pretty impactful when you walk the grounds and you just are like, man, history was made here. It's a really special place.
Oh, so cool. I absolutely have loved like learning about you and your program, and just thank you so much for sharing so much with us and taking up so much time, and because we know, especially during season, your time is so valuable. So we really, really appreciate you sharing a little bit about you and your program, and we're so thankful. And I know our viewers will love to listen to this.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys and what you're doing for softball. We're in this really unique position where the game is bursting, and there are amazing women, amazing athletes. You two being two of them, but as the leaders of it. But now we're getting all of the publicity and all of the TV time, and it came on the backs of a lot of other people that had to be there before us. So I appreciate what you guys have done for the game in your playing careers, but also now, and just the future of the game. And just thanks for letting me be a part of it, and let's keep doing good work together, and let the world see how awesome these women and this game really is.
That means a lot. Thank you again, Coach. We're rooting for you the rest of the way.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Go.
Fun conversation with Coach Hardin. I think I always just love getting the inside scoop, or like the viewpoint of a coach or a player who's actually involved, in this grind day to day. We know what it was like, Amanda, but today's game, it's still evolving.
Totally. And then just learning more about coaches and their programs. And like, I have never met Coach Hardin or have learned about her and her program. So really exciting just to listen to her speak about her kids and what she's building there, because they're doing some cool stuff this year.
Agreed. Well, from here, we will run right into the plays of the week. So the first play of the week, we all love walk-offs, but this is a walk-off of a different kind. So let's just take a look at it.
2-2. Spearman swings, cracks it to left center. Madry with the diving catch. The runner off first, and the throwback is in time. A double play to end the game. Another highlight reel play by Madry.
That ended the game. And like I said, we love walk-off hits, but like to have a walk-off defensive play, like my love language is defense, I feel like. So when I saw this, I was like, this is exactly what just warms my heart, because I think like there's the physical execution, like the dive, the throw from the knees from completely the other side of the field, and then there's the mental awareness of like, what's the situation? And then, of course, the emotional reaction of everyone on the field was just perfection.
Yeah, so good. Love giving a little bit of defensive love. I think that's the theme this week, Jenna, because I chose some defense as well. So here is my play of the week.
Round to score the only run of the game so far. Pitch hit right back up the middle. Makia is able to double up, and they return a triple play. Does Eastern Illinois to get out of the inning? Marama Makia with some good glove work, won the foot race to second base, turned around and threw.
How about that? In the top of the first, bases loaded, no outs, and you somehow get out of it with a triple play and giving up no runs. So awesome from Eastern Illinois, and so much fun to see. We always see some double plays, but we don't see triple plays very often.
Yeah, I mean, you had to one-up me. It's fine. I get it, Amanda. Whatever.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah, obviously. That's what you're in it for. No,
Yeah.
But that was awesome. And everything I just said about the double play applies. And I think it's cool it was early in the game, like you said, like the walk-off double play, but then this is like a tone setting in the first. Like, that's awesome.
Yes, love it. Like, so awesome. Think about just how that propelled them into the rest of the game, especially offense going in, knowing like, woof, we have all the momentum. We got the mo.
We got the mo, 100%. Love that. All right. Well, we'll head into the win and whiff of the week. So the win this week is hilarious. And we've even thrown around the word troll. So in the best way. Let's take a look and see what we mean. So the tweet says it all here. And this is actually Nebraska's play-by-play announcer, Nate. Rhonda Revelle from Nebraska had to hit the dirt to avoid a throw from third base. So in the morning the next day, they're playing against Michigan. So Hutch leaves this printed out photo of her on the ground as a present. And I think what does it for me is the signature. Like, that's what's it for me. The love Hutch at the bottom with the heart. Like, this is hilarious.
Like, I love it so much. And then I also love that, like, Hutch being on the other side now. Like, I feel like, the people that knew Hutch, like, have always known that she is so, like, funny and, like, does things like this. But, like, it's so cool for more of, like, everybody to see this now, like, much more carefree, and obviously wants Michigan to win all of the games. But she's having, like, so much more fun with certain things. And it's so to see, like, she was the first one ready to troll Coach Revelle. Like, amazing. Love it so much.
Well, we talk about how relationships run deep in softball, right? And I think that's really true in the Big Ten. I mean, we're talking about decades that both Rhonda Revelle and Hutch were at their respective schools, and Rhonda's still there. And then you think of others like Kate Trohan at Northwestern, and like it's definitely a theme. And I think, Rhonda has said to me before when I've interviewed her on the Believe in Softball podcast, like that her and Hutch are really good friends. But to me, this is like the evidence, right? Because are you really friends if you don't roast each other?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. That was a really cool series too. I saw a lot on social media of just like younger girls in the stands, specifically for Jordy Ball, and some Jordy Ball jerseys. And I saw one video that was like, my daughter, like Jordy Ball is my daughter's Caitlin Clark. And like, that was so cool for me to see. Just like, I feel like growing up, and even that was probably the first time that I've seen that compared to another female, like saying Jordy Ball is my daughter's Michael Jordan. Like, we've seen stuff like that, right? Like comparing like to the boys and who they look up to. But that was the first time that I've seen one like, hey, like, this is my daughter's Caitlin Clark. Like, oh, like that gave me chills. Like, that was so cool. Like, to hear of just an example of a female like legend name that's like, this is like who my daughter's looking up to, was really cool for me. Like, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to the Big Ten again, Iowa. Great.
Yes.
But to your point, the next step I think would be for in men's sports or boys sports for them to say the Caitlin Clark of X of men's basketball or whatever it is, right? Like that's the next
Totally.
step.
Yeah.
Well, before we head into the whiff of the week, we actually have one more win that we were going to pull up. Our beloved Amanda Lorenz not only making the Team USA roster, competing in the World Cup finals this summer, but also re-signing with Athletes Unlimited. I mean, girl is a baller. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So that is another win of the week.
Oh my gosh, you're cute. Wow, what a surprise. So excited. I am so thankful for another opportunity to play for Team USA. I feel like that's all of our dreams growing up is to, I feel like I had the dream of playing on Team USA before I even had the dream of playing in college. So obviously I'm so thankful. I never take it for granted. Such an honor. Can't wait to go to Italy for the first time. And excited to play with that group. I mean, like, what an honor to play alongside those really talented softball players, but even better people. So I'm excited to learn, excited for a fun summer, and then definitely super excited for another 2 years with Athletes Unlimited. Opportunities to play professional softball are definitely not always there, and it's only a few get the opportunity. So I'm really thankful, really excited, and I can't believe it's going to be like my 6th year as a pro, which is getting up there.
That's just called experience. That just means you're a veteran now. That's all that means. Don't worry.
Which is like, but I still feel like have the rookie mentality, like looking at all of my oldies, looking at like the Megan Wiggins for guidance on things, like I'm still gonna just hold on to like that young mentality.
Stay
hold on to it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again. Obviously,
thank you.
So excited. I even was just like, I just kind of think of you and Athletes Unlimited as one at this point. So then I was like, oh, I guess now it is official. I guess it wasn't yet. I just assumed it was because you've been doing it all year.
I know. That's like one of the coolest parts is like about our league is like it's a player ran league. So 2-year contracts are kind of new. I think this is the 2nd year that we've rolled out 2-year contracts. So getting, I'm not a part of the players executive committee anymore, but there are 5 active players in Athletes Unlimited who are the ones choosing like the players that play in our league and who to invite and doing all of the backwards. So shout out to the PEC who's holding it down and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Amazing. Can't wait to watch as usual. I know we talk about like college softball, obviously, all the time, week to week here, but these are the goals, right? Of some of those players even who want to continue playing their careers afterwards. So to have examples like you is incredibly important.
Well, thank you. But I have had so many examples too. So I think like that's the main thing. Like we just keep pushing the envelope and hopefully getting more people comparing us to Caitlin Clark. And then hopefully we can make money like Caitlin Clark too.
Let's praise be. Yes. +1 to that.
So cool. All right. So now let's get into the whiff of the week.
Line between Ventura County and LA County.
On the ground, into center field for a base hit. Here comes Osteen. Here comes the throw. Got her.
What a play by Emily Jones in center field. My goodness. Base hit up the middle, exactly what you want for the Bruins, but check out this throw. A nice one-hop, perfect placement, great, efficient tag laid down by Alex.
Call overturned. And the run counts.
Jenna, was that you on the call?
Yeah, it was. It's me who also gasped when they overturned.
Yeah, so I'd say, okay, one, like, nothing to take away from UCLA. Like, they played amazing, perfect hit. Like, and of course, they're going to want to challenge it. Like, of course. Yep. Nothing, like, of course. But, like, perfectly executed play by Stanford. I can't, like, I don't see any obstruction. Like, the game might still be going if they didn't overturn that call. Like, I understand, like, even UCLA could have still pulled it out, but I just hate to see like the game decided like that. And
Yeah.
in my mind, it was not obstruction, and it was just a perfectly executed play. And so that's my whiff of the week. I hate that the game was decided on an obstruction call because the throws were by a lot.
Yes, it's not that UCLA won because they very well could have. To your point, like we could have went to inning number 12 and they might have pulled it out at the end. It's that this is the how that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just made worse by the fact that they had the call correct. Like the home plate umpire was right there, made the right call, and then they overturned it to basically the wrong call. Like that's what I think. Even UCLA fans were like, you know, I'm a Bruin fan, but that was weird. Like that's not how I would have liked for us to have won. Of course, to your point, they still went on, you know, they clearly made a statement. They swept. This is not a fluke, right? Like Taylor Tinsley was outstanding, as we said, national pitcher of the week, right? For D1Softball, among others, let alone Pac-12 pitcher of the week for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just what it comes down to. You just like, one, that rule is like heightened with a lot of us. Like we don't just, the obstruction rule, just like, I feel like it's ever changing and you just never know how it's going to be called. So just like up to their discretion, number one. And then like, it just feels like if the throw beats you by that much, like the catcher should be able to do whatever they want. And even so, like, I feel like she still had plenty of room and had a lane to the plate. So I'm going to stand firm, like not obstruction. She was out and that sucks.
Yeah. Well, yes. That like, because I even asked umpires, like the SIDs that we had there, like are fantastic. Shout out to Kevin from Stanford and Vinny from UCLA. But they were getting like some more information too from umpires, and it still just didn't really add up. It's like if you break down the rule as it is, you know, Ali Kanashiro's position as the catcher seemed fine. I mean, she was inside the plate, you know. The one hop throw, maybe she took it slightly up the line. She followed it, but that was a change this year where that's supposed to be allowed. There was a clear path to the plate. The runner didn't even try to hook slide or anything because she didn't need to. There was a path, and she was out by a mile, to your point. So I think it was a little tough to watch because the rule is supposed to be about safety, not technicality. You know, like if I'm a coach, I'm like, do the same thing 10 out of 10 times defense.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
So best pitcher's duel of the season too. You don't want it to be talking about that, you know?
Totally. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yep. But 800th win for Kelly Inouye Perez. So, I mean, a weird way for it to happen, but regardless, she would have got it the next day or on Sunday, right? Like it was going to happen. Yeah. So that's a huge milestone. I think there's Heather Tarr's the only other active Pac-12 coach who's reached that. And now Kelly has crossed that milestone as her predecessors did, like Sharon Backus and Sue Inquist, which amazing. Yeah. So congrats.
Another alum doing it, which is really cool too.
Absolutely. Oh, it just gets better and better every week. More and more to chat about. Love it.
I love it.
Oh man. But in terms of what's next, so my next game's on Pac-12 networks, hopefully less dramatic, but doing a midweek game at Cal next week, and then the Oregon-Stanford series to wrap up the regular season. So that should be interesting in terms of the standings. And then we're going to be tuning into everything, aren't we?
Absolutely. Florida is playing out Georgia this weekend, so I'm going to make the trek down to Athens and watch a game or two. So excited to see that one. Two of my favorite coaches going at it. So really excited to see that. And obviously will mean a lot for the SEC standings as well, going into the SEC tournament. Will
it just mean more, do you think?
It always does. That's the thing about it, about down in SEC country. Everything means more, and it's wild.
It's crazy how that happens.
Yeah, so fun. But you just, when you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. As always, subscribe, rate, review. Let us know what you want to hear from us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.